Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder videos, and a tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to the Monday edition of my bi-weekly behind-the-scenes DM only live stream crafting Icewind, which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Rime of the Frostmaiden. We're playing characters of Valravn, Frey, Celeste, Edmund, or Thimbleweed. This is not the right stream for you, but the rest of you, welcome. Warning, of course, there will be spoilers. Stream our D&D sessions live on YouTube every Friday. Watch all of our sessions and review videos here on the channel. You can follow me on Twitter at RogueWatson and join our official Discord server with invite link in the description below. If you would like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. For our campaign, we use Roll20.net, and for streaming, I use Open Broadcaster software with Streamlabs. Hope everybody had a fabulous weekend. I am getting excited about ending this campaign. We're not going to have too many more of these crafting Icewind Dales. You know, it's been a big part of my life for 2 years. Doing Rime of the Frostmaiden. It's gonna feel weird to end it, and yet I think all good things must come to an end. Hey James, Unverse, Sylvan, Nate, Stan. At least last week's fight, maybe you should consider removing the fight with the sword. Several characters spent all their hit dice and are still not at full health. Oh, so we're already talking balance changes, huh? You know, I will take what you say under advisement. I will say that was an odd. I mean, I enjoyed that fight a lot, but that was one of those fights where, like, 2 characters took a lot of damage and thus had to use a lot of resources and things, and the other 3 didn't really at all. So it's gotten kind of uneven in that regard. I think Valravn just, and Chris even admitted, like, he kind of brazenly went out there and I punished him for it. And almost went down and spent all his hit dice. Frey spent a good chunk of hers. I think the other 3 are still looking pretty good. I think the better thing would be to look at spell slots remaining. And I guess whether or not we want to let the parties long rest at some point before some kind of big fight they have coming up. Because that is a very JRPG thing to do, is to let the players, you know, get that free save point, that free long rest, so that they're perfectly recharged for the boss fight. But D&D doesn't really work with that kind of balance. It almost is balanced in the opposite direction, where it makes you manage your resources until you get to the end, and then you're left with just whatever you got. So I'm certainly willing to hear out any kind of balance changes, though, because frankly, at this level the players are at, it is a constant struggle for me to try to find that perfect balance that brings challenging, satisfying tactical combat, but that isn't frustrating for the players, other than just me giving them gobs of dealing just a shit ton of damage, I guess, in the end. And maybe it's my fault for putting a lot of enemies that have crowd control abilities, but it's kind of, there's almost like a psychic psionic theme with a lot of these baddies in there, and that's kind of what ends up happening, I feel like. And that's unfortunately a big fight they're about to come up against in Ariel Arthas, who's basically the big boss brain of them all, who's certainly going to have some psychic attacks, and we're going to look at the Elder Brain as well. Edmund still has a green whistle with a chunk of cure wounds stored in it. That's very true. A green whistle. Happy to have shared the journey. Yes, James. It'll be really fun to have the rap party for sure, but I'm looking forward to. So, pacing wise, it would be ideal, I think, if we did basically almost all of level 1 last week. We got through the fight, we got through the little Allet battle, we explored some rooms, we crossed the bridge, the non-bridge, and then we got to where I was teasing the Ariel Arthas social scene at Y19J, so technically that's the last thing in level 1. And then once we get through that scene, which I have it written down, where there's a chance if the players play it cool and play their cards right, that maybe they can just not be attacked in this room, but more than likely they will be, because, and I'm going to kind of play Ariel Arthas as smarter than maybe they think. Like, yes, he's delusional about the fact that Ithrin is dead and gone, basically, and there's no bringing it back. But he still has his faculties about him, and he thought at first that maybe these guys were fellow, Ithrin wizards or something, but now he's got some other ideas. Although he's still curious about, like, why Katavix is with them and everything, so that might be some interesting social scenes. But I'm willing to play out this scene, but I'm also really wanting to just fire off all of these crystals as individual blasts, as a nice little hazard they have to deal with, for a one-time hazard. And I think I looked up, I forgot what spell it was. There was a spell that involves shooting off radiant blast. I think it was Wall of Light, actually, maybe, that fires these. But I was going to have each crystal, whenever Irrelarthus either gets mad or the players decide to attack his hologram or whatever leads to battle shenanigans, he'll just snap his fingers or something, and all of these different crystals embedded in this kind of star-shaped formation will overload and fire off a single blast of energy, which I wrote down is going to have a +8. Each one's going to have a +8 to hit. I'm going to randomly determine which one they're targeting, just anybody in the room, essentially, and use Token Fate for that. I've got 11 of them. And if they hit, they deal 4d8 radiant damage. So it's no saves involved. It's purely AC at that point, because they're just kind of following the like Scorching Ray rules or something. So one little trap they have to deal with there, and that's just a one-time. There's not going to be initiative or anything. It's just a one-time overload blast of energy, and then the hologram dissipates. In the ceiling, they can climb up or fly up, whatever wings they have, and they enter Y19K, which is the official second level of the Spire. We've gone over this before, but just to reiterate, there's a permanent wall of force dome around this top of the room, I guess. I guess you go through the ceiling and you see it encircling the top, so you can't really get beyond it. However, it is powered by a crystal. I don't remember where it is. A glowing green crystal, roughly the size of a human fist, is set into the arch above the doorway. So that would be down here above the door. The glowing crystal sustains the wall of force, but has become loose in its stone fixture. Whenever a loud noise is made inside the chamber, the loose crystal flickers. Tremendously loud noises, such as those made by a thunderwave spell or a horn of blasting, cause the crystal to go out for 1d6 rounds, during which time the wall of force is suppressed. That's only seconds. First time this happens, the ice that coats the dome collapses. So can you see through the ice? You send an overall wall glittering with frost. Decorate the walls and island. It sees a 10-foot dome, radius dome of translucent ice. Enclose the area around the shaft from which you emerge. So I wonder if you think you're in like a dome of ice, actually, the way it's described. That's interesting. Two blade-shaped patches of pitch darkness hover in the air to the other side of a double door, which they would begin advancing, I think. I don't know. I like these swords, though. I think the swords are fun. They actually have a boatload of hit points, but not a lot of AC, and they're just a very simple attack. They do a fuck ton of damage if they hit, and they can crit better. They have a 3 times the amount of crit, and when they crit, they do a absolutely monstrous amount of damage. And the scary thing about them is that they do get multi-attack if they are within 5 feet of somebody. Anybody that starts their turn within 5 feet of it. So during their first round, they're not going to be able to get that reaction, but from then on, they can pretty much get 2 attacks off each round, which is pretty scary. So these things could do some nasty, nasty damage. We only saw that one once before during the library fight, and Frey was able to solo it, but it got pretty dicey with how much damage that thing did to her. Another fight would be good to push them. They have health potions. They do have health potions. Good point. Yeah, I mean, they're level 14. I think they've got plenty of options up their sleeves. And I think this is, like I said, they've got that crystal thing, which there is a chance I might not pull the trigger on that, but I'm kind of liking the idea of it because it just feels very cinematic and cool to have the, even if they don't piss him off, maybe just as part of his like dissipation, he'll fire off the crystals and try to shoot him. But I don't know, the swords feel very cool. It's an interesting situation here that I don't even think I need to change from what's written, honestly. And even though it was written for level 9, which would be deadly as hell for level 9, these are just level 14. What CR are these things? CR8. A pair of CR8s. This is a nasty, nasty fight for what would normally be a level 9 dungeon. I'm actually kind of shocked by that. Because initially they come up here, and then I would probably roll initiative for these swords. Give them numbers. And it says the swords can specifically pass through the wall of force. So the idea is they kind of trap the players into not being able to kite them around and dealing more damage. I guess the players could always go back down the shaft, and then it's determined by me if the swords follow them. I would probably rule that the swords don't follow them and stay out of the dome, so it really forces the players to come deal with them in some way. I don't know if they have any sound-based spells they can do. That would be something to look up. And would Katavix know? You would basically consider this to be like a magic version of a locked door, only open on the inside, and maybe referencing the fact that there's, like on the wall or somewhere, there's a wizard that can normally switch this green crystal off and on, and it's just been permanently set to on. Edmund, maybe? I wonder if the chime of open. I guess the chime of opening wouldn't work on the wall of force, obviously, but it could work on. I mean, he's got fabricate. Hasn't been able to use it. Edmund still has a lot of spells slots, by the way. They also, I think, have teleportation. Like, can gaseous form get through wall of force? I guess it says nothing physical, but probably not. But I mean, doesn't Valravn still have teleporting abilities? That could come into play. Also, isn't Valravn still under the effects of the Death Ward spell? Wasn't that Valravn that had that? Or if he wrote that down somewhere. Chris, I love you for reflavoring all your spells, but I really need to know what spells these are, because I can't look at them and determine what they are. Dissonant Whisper is actually the opposite of a down-based spell. I'd be willing to basically listen to the players and see what method they have of solving this, essentially. But I would clue them into the fact that, and Katavix would be able to add to that the Wall of Force is powered by this green crystal. But it almost seems like they probably wouldn't. They'd probably just deal with the swords first, and then have to figure out how to disable the crystal. But it could even be a thing where, like, I don't know, if they're really out of options, like shouting or something, could possibly just loosen it to where, like, obviously you don't want to just trap the players in there for being able to advance. But it could be interesting if they try to dislodge it during the fight. They have now is all they have to the end of the boss fight, if you allow them to have a long rest after. Yeah. I mean, what do you all think about that? Because we've got the Irialarthus fight coming up, and then what I'd like to do is immediately transition to, because the problem is when they defeat Irialarthus, that's what's going to shut down the whole force field surrounding the spire. So they really can't dilly-dally after that. They got to get down to the Mythallar and get on it. So I may be asking a lot of them if they don't long rest first. So their best opportunity to long rest would be before the Irialarthus fight, would be here, like before they enter into this chamber. But then I don't know. I could let them do that. I would then have to create a more challenging series of final battles. On the flip side is if they don't get to long rest again and they do this entire dungeon, and I mean, technically they haven't long rested since the end of the Tower of Divination, I think, right? When they leveled up. Which I'm proud of my players. That's one thing we really like to. I really love them to the death about that, is they do not abuse long rests almost ever. Every once in a while they'll talk about it, but they do a pretty good job of not, overly relying on that system, because I think the balance of D&D really goes out the window if you long rest too much. I am concerned about not letting them long rest enough, but at this level, I mean, the spellcasters have so many spell slots. Like I fear that would make my job a lot harder if they long rest and then I have to scale it up, versus they're not long resting, they keep getting depleted, and then I can fix things the other way if I need to. Just have, fewer minions or something. Yeah, I could even have a mini thing where it's like maybe some of them get some hit points back. But like even Stan was saying, like they have a lot of potions of healing between the two of them. So if they literally need, I mean, didn't they say Celeste had like 4 greater healing potions? Yeah, that she's got. Like they've got some healing methods for sure. Now, talk to me again after this sword fight. Maybe this sword fight will just carve them a new asshole. And I don't know. Well, it could be tricky, but as of right now, I'm leaning towards not letting them long rest. I guess for the rest of this campaign is what we're looking at. Which seems kind of crazy, but... Put a library thing in here, but I don't know what I'm looking for. Need a... library. This is a Y19O. Which I'm going to keep as a library. There you go, just bookshelves. When in doubt, bookshelves. Bookshelves? By one. Oh yeah, it does look better. That doesn't look odd at all. If they manage their resources well. You ask much of them. Very oddly shaped room. Yes. They will fight Auril. I've teased her long enough. I literally teased her at the end of the Auril's Abode. I gotta have a cool boss moment where, like, the players have to, like, run from the boss because she's so strong then and they couldn't take her, and now they can try to fight her. Go. Yes, and we'll have to talk about how to balance Auril for that level. But she's also going to have minions with her, and Avarice is going to be with her forces. I could do a fun thing where if they've kept Katavix alive, then Katavix can maybe stun her for a round or something. We can definitely talk about that. But I really want to focus on this second level because I think the goal for this coming session is to get the players from this point to the Eriolarthus boss fight. So we've got the little crystal social encounter at the end of level 1, where we'll be able to talk to Eriolarthus, and he'll be able to just... It'll be a good chance for me to actually socialize the villain before they fight him. Then we've got the dome, the wall of force with the swords. I think I'm just going to actually keep all of this as written. I think it's really interesting. The players haven't really come across a impenetrable wall of force before, can't be dispelled. I think the only thing you can do is teleport. But there's a crystal that they can knock over, and then that dissipates it. But in the meantime, they've got to deal with these living blades, which are very, very strong offensively, and have enough hit points to stick around. So I think that could be pretty painful. Then, and all of that is just as written. So I think I'm almost going to keep it, even though this is a level 9 dungeon. Like, these things are pretty strong. I think a pair of those swords will be pretty nasty. Especially in the situation where the players pop up out of this thing, the swords immediately, like, we could roll for initiative. The only awkward thing is if a player goes up there to scout it out, which makes sense. They see the swords, I roll initiative. If they beat me on initiative, they could just fuck off and go back down the shaft, in which case I'll probably just take everybody out of initiative again. It's like, all right, well, now you know what's up there. But the swords will not follow, and the players can't get far up there. And even if they try to, like, throw, you know, spells up there, the swords know to stay beyond the wall of force. So it really forces the players to get into a position for the swords. The testing chamber is next. This is the fucked up trap. A magical trap fills the 10-foot square south of the double doors. Triggers when every creature that is neither a construct nor undead enters the area for the first time. First of all, why would it be triggered to do that? Like, the wizards normally have to come this way. That's crazy. Creature can't set off the... I mean, unless you... Okay, it's just everything's in emergency lockdown mode, so all the security systems are in place. They're normally not in place. Like, there's normally not swords that are ready to kill you, for example. It may take damage in the star room. The sword fight possibly doubles from the 8 doors, and the boss in the free-for-all at the end. I know. Yeah, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy, and that's... All I can say is they're level 14. They got to manage their resources. I will be cognizant of how much I'm throwing at them. Right now, even after the... I still feel like they've barely been challenged overall, I mean, they won that one fight out against Valish and Nass so handily, but they did have to blow some, big spells to do it. Yes, while Robin specifically went through a lot of health in that last fight, I guess Frey had to roll some hit dice, but I mean, still don't see they're hurting that much at this point. Now, after all the things you mentioned, then yes, I think they would be very much hurting. And then we can look at maybe defeating Aerial Larthus gives them a boost of energy or something. What I want to avoid is the bullshit thing that a lot of the 5e campaigns do, and artificially enhance the player characters for the end because they put them up against some end threat that they have no business fighting against, whether it's Tiamat or the Demogorgon or the Iamrith or a Serac. All of those are like end bosses in these level like 12 campaigns, and they all have to give the player some kind of extra thing to let them fight and win against that threat. And here I've actually got this is the threat they have to deal with. I don't think any of it's going to be insurmountable, but it's going to be a gauntlet of nasty things to get through. Basically to where you have to fight like a back-to-back major final boss fights. I'm always nervous. Me too, dude. Like I always feel nervous. I always feel nervous for the players, and it's almost always swings the other direction, where like they always come out smelling like roses. Now every once in a while, and it'll be the little bullshit fights, like it's a fight against like 4 gargoyles or something that's like I don't see coming, and like they struggle with. It's just the dice. It really just comes down to the dice for a lot of cases. And thankfully as a DM, I can help, try to change things on the fly. Like maybe the doors don't all hold fucking barbed devils or something. We can work on changing that if we need to. I really am not a fan of this trap because there's no rhyme or reason for it. It feels... this feels like a randomly generated dungeon type trap where it's like, oh, the algorithm calls for a tier 3 trap at this doorway, so let's throw in a flesh to stone, fuck you trap after this door in the hall. Like, why is this here? Why would the security system want to turn people to stone? That's just a pain in the ass. Like, wouldn't you rather disintegrate them or something? We don't want a bunch of statues sitting around. Like, it really just doesn't fit thematically to me. And it just feels kind of out of left field, especially if the players just had to pass a pretty rigorous little test right here where they had to deal with the Wall of Force and these 2 blades, and now you're telling me there's a flesh to stone spell here? So I'm kind of tempted to remove this trap completely. And keep in mind, I kind of put a trap in the crystal room that wasn't there before, right? Which was the laser blast firing the players, and I'm 85% sure I'm gonna be able to get that off. I think I may skip this one though, because I just don't like it thematically, and it's obviously problematic from a like, oh, this can kind of straight up kill you unless the players have, I think, greater restoration. Spell save DC 17 is no joke. I do think you have to fail multiple times. I guess it's 3 times, yeah. If it fails 3 times, it's turned to stone and petrified for the duration. Which I guess is just permanent if the thing is permanent. Oh yeah, if you maintain concentration of the spell for the entire possible duration, creatures turn to stone until the effect is removed. So it is permanent. So I don't like it. I don't like that one. I don't think it fits very well. It just feels like an extra fuck you for getting this far, and it just doesn't seem to fit. So there you go. There's some balance for me. I think we're just going to remove that trap completely. Lining the far wall of this hall are 8 doors, each marked. Plus, it just interrupts the flow. Like, you open the room, you describe everything, they walk in, then you start triggering a trap. Like, On the wall above them is etched an inscription in Draconic. Speak thy master's name and enter. I like that. And the players have learned some of these names. This is not a case where I'm going to be a dick DM, be like, which, I mean, obviously they know Catavix, but I'm going to be like, oh, do you remember their names, players? Like, we've been playing this game for, even in Ethan, been playing for months, so they know by name Ajamar, Apius, Catavix. I think those might be the only 3 that they actually... Taruth, they might have heard that name also. I know they met Apius, the Slod, and they met Ajamar through the Programmed Illusion. They've got Katovix with them. I think the Anvil mentioned the name High Abjurer Taruth. I don't think they've heard the names of the others. Yeah, I mean that's the whole deal with the swords. Yeah, it's gonna be brutal for them. I hear you. I think it could be really, really nasty with the swords. I agree. The nice thing is they have seen these swords in action, so this is not like a me just creating these cool swords out of the air. The player's like, all right, we're ready for it. Like they should recall that these things are nasty pants. They deal force damage and they can deal a shit ton of damage. So it should be a cool fear thing. Now they also know that Frey can take one solo one-on-one, so maybe they just leave Frey up there to solo these swords. And the thing is, the swords, I don't know how intelligent they're supposed to be. They're a 6. They're not mindless, but they're not clever either. I don't even know how much sentience they have. I guess 6 you are sentient at some point. You're not a mindless beast. But yeah, they could, if the players, and that's the thing about the tactical awareness thing. If the players are dumb enough to just sit up there, crowd around, and try to fight these swords, then yeah, it's not going to go well for them. Hopefully they can play it to their advantage. So they've got Katovix with them. Katovix knows all this if they ask. This is a weird case where, like, if they ask Katovix, he'll tell them a lot of what they need to know. But I'm not necessarily going to volunteer that information because you want the players to be able to just figure things out on their own and have fun with it. So he's there to help the players, but I'm going to try to watch myself and not speak up too much as Katovix. Although the players may very well be like, well, Katovix, you need to tell us, like, and then I'll be like, okay, I'll do that, but I'm not necessarily going to volunteer the information right away. So you can recognize the symbol on the doors represent the 8 schools of magic. Opening any of the 8 doors reveals utter darkness beyond. The dark tunnel of nothing. Magical darkness, I believe. The darkness fills the tunnels south of the doors and can't be dispelled. To pass through safely, the character must speak the name of one of Irilarthus' 8 apprentices and then step through the door associated with that wizard school of magic. But if you open a door without speaking the correct name, a barbed devil appears in the dark corridor beyond. The devil can see in the magical darkness and attacks any creature that moves into the corridor without first speaking the correct name. It does say they leave the darkness to pursue their foes. I would almost... I wonder if you would let the players just slam the door, though, and be like, nope. 1 minute after devil appears, it disappears, leaving no trace of itself behind. I'll probably have them roll for initiative and just see who gets initiative first. So I think the only reason a barbed devil is used here is because they have the devil's sight where they can specifically see in magical darkness. Which is going to be kind of a tricky situation because does that mean the players are effectively blinded if they don't have some kind of true sight thing going on? Oh shit, barbed devil, what's... You're 5, okay. No joke. You're a spiky dude. He's got 110 hit points on average. Can hurl flames at 150 feet. Makes 3 melee attacks, or can use hurl flame twice. Well, that's painful. Has great saves and magical darkness, and deals damage to any creature grappling it. Immune to fire and poison, resistance to cold. This thing is pretty solid. You will not want to mess that up. Don't know what's the best way to do magical darkness, though. Dark tunnel. Just to draw a shape. So then it would be... It'll be transparent if I do that. Oh, I see the middle part's transparent. Well, there's not a good way to do this in Roll20. Gray and black? And if it's a token, it's just going to cover up, yeah, no matter what color it is. But if you put it on the back, it looks kind of dumb. Maybe it would be effective to hide it because they wouldn't really be able to see. Whereas this thing, you just see like fireballs coming out. Someone has blindside, don't they? I'm not sure. Does spell magic work on the swords? I don't believe so, but nobody's asked. I know they have magic resistance. Oh, yeah, specifically, living spell can move through any barrier, even a wall of magical force. That's just a trait it has. I would rule that no, it can't be dispelled. I don't think the player's going to get hung up here because it's pretty obvious. It has the clue on there. Speak thy master's name and enter. Or Katavix can just go right in front of the necromancy door and just say, I necromancer Katavix. And the door will open and your path will be revealed. So you don't have to fuck around with this. So this would only be a case where somebody like Edmund is like, I want to see what happens. And just flings open a door at random, in which case I can start this action, maybe even start initiative, but then assuming somebody gets it early enough, they could probably just shut the door, I guess. I don't know, if that just, does it just spawn? Is it an interdimensional door, or does it technically spawn a trap, I guess? In which case, maybe it does. Like, even opening it spawns one of these monsters, which, having one of them, they're still gonna get their ass kicked by the action economy, right? Like, even with some great initiative roll, although 110 hit points, he's gonna stick around for probably 2 rounds, even if he's taking all the damage. Now, if they start walking, going around and flipping all the doors open, that's just dumb, though. And you're gonna get some consequences for those actions. Fills the tunnels south of the doors. It does say the devils leave the darkness to pursue their foes. So I guess once you open it, it does spawn one that comes after you. But once it comes out of the darkness, it's a lot less scary. Yeah, you could have this like dark hall there, so I could have that maybe ready to go. I don't have to make dynamic lighting, I guess, work for that. This gets tricky. One there. This is gonna be a pain in the ass, but this is just in case they open a door, and then I can have that kind of be ready to not show them the room. Did an angle too, like a dumbass. Ugh. Widget. All right, so I think there we go. So if somebody opens the door, use our devil here as a big. Right now, just sees all these closed doors. You say, I'm just going to open this one. We open that one up. And then all you see is my gray square. Let's make that just black. There you go. You just see like blackness beyond, and then I roll initiative. for some monster making sounds and hurling fire and things. That could work, I guess. Right, 100% will not give no shits, just open a door. Yeah, I mean, the curiosity is gonna get the better of them, right? Like, and bless those players that their curiosity can't leave well enough alone. They're without Abu grabbing the forbidden treasure, do we have Disney's Aladdin? Like, bless those players and their animal companions that set off all the traps and hijinks and things. That's where the fun comes. Negative light, yeah. I have to just jerry rig something. But right now I can move this around wherever I need to, or copy and paste if I need to, and then we've got our barbed devil friend. But I see them making it past this, but they could very well just set it off just for funsies. Which is why I have not, by the way, set these up as normal doors, because I don't want them sitting here flicking all these fucking doors off and on without me being prepared for it. So I have specifically not using the Roll20 doors up here. Then the Chamber of the Ebon Star. There's a balcony down here, which, okay, doesn't seem like, I don't know, it seems pointless, but whatever. Door here. The balcony door. Sometimes it makes me stick it in places, and other times it doesn't. Not sure why the rhyme reason is for that. Stretches cover all 8, yeah. I could do that. You all open the doors. Oh, it's locked. Okay. No. That's where I think the boss room is. Swirling starfield represents the cosmos. It was known to the Netherese. Characters say starfield is a strange phenomenon. A dark star in a position where no known star exists today. Character now risks being cursed with a foreboding sense of doom just by looking at it. Character must make a DC 20 intelligence saving throw. On a failed save, the character gains the following flaw. I can't look at the sky because the Ebon Star may be looking back at me. Which doesn't matter because the players won't be looking at the sky for the rest of this campaign. In character who succeeds on a DC 10 Arcana check recognizes the symbols of the chair represent the 8 schools of magic. I don't think they need to make a check for that. Again, they think they can just recognize the schools. At this point, if you've come this far, you've seen all, most of the towers. You've seen the symbols on the spire entrance. Like, that's stupid to make them roll checks for that. Anyone has a supernatural charm gained by drinking from the goblet in area Y8 can sit safely in the chair of the School of Magic. So they did, but then they lost them and instead gained various, like, curses and things afterwards. So I don't think that applies, but a wizard can sit in whichever chair matches their chosen arcane tradition. One or more party members take their proper seats here. The starfield transforms into a glowing door that persists for 1 minute before transforming back to its original form. So they've got 2, right? They've got Katavix and Valin, both necromancers. So they both have to sit, one of them would have to sit in that chair, and then they would essentially open the doorway to the boss fight. Just turns into a glowing door, which teleport into the boss. So the stasis chamber is where the spindle is kept. I'm obviously replacing that because we're not using the spindle in my campaign. Instead, I think this is going to be conveniently the fast travel way to get to the Mythalar room, because otherwise the players would have to go back through the spire, essentially, and then hop over from the spire entrance to the thing. Instead, this, which I need to come up with, I don't know, magic circle? Some kind of art-looking thing that basically can just take them directly to the Mythalar room, because pacing-wise, there doesn't need to be anything between these sections. This needs to happen right afterwards. Be pretty exciting and cool. That could work right there. Magic circle. Something that looks like a arcane elevator. Nothing evil or elemental looking necessarily. Okay, enough with the pentagrams, people. Love pentagrams. Not every magic circle is a demon circle. There we go. Just a nice blue that could work. Get white. Okay. We're not gonna be able to make it fit exactly on the squares, but hopefully kind of even with the room a little bit. All right, and then if you notice, I put a door here, and it's kind of got this glowing bit to it, and I'll be teasing the fact that it's got the same energy of this star to try and tease the players that it's linked together. And I'll even have a sign on there that says like Mythalar access or something, and the door is clearly locked. And hopefully that'll just explain to the players very quickly, you know, again using video game logic, where it's like, oh, okay, I see this is locked by the same starry substance as this gateway here. And all else fails, Catavix can just say, yep, that's the quick passage through the Mythalar. Looks like it's currently being locked down by Irialarthus's, I don't know what they call this, like the Ebon Star Chamber or something. There's a library, which is going to have some nice loot and spell scrolls for them. I don't really have anything in terms of like potions I was going to give them this late. But they could certainly find some more spell scrolls in here, including possibly a Scroll of the Comet, which I'm kind of liking the idea of using, although I'll probably change. They don't necessarily have to be outdoors to use it. But that could be if they just want to be like, fuck it, we'll just destroy this city and try to get away. Like, maybe give them that scroll. It's either that or the Tarask summoning one, which I think that one is built to get that one at the end of the Irialarthus fight. And we could wait until they fight Irialarthus to give him that loot, but there needs to be something cool in this library, and why not just give him a Scroll of the Comet? You also get the key to the balcony. I don't know why you need a key to get to the balcony. There's nothing in the balcony. It's got this megaphone. You can speak to people. I don't really get the point of that. Irialarthus' study is where you teleport to by activating the magic door in area Y19M. The door is a two-way portal that snaps shut after 1 minute. It can be reopened from this side by speaking the proper command word. Anyone who arrives by this route appears on the room's upper level, which the following box text assumes. And he's got a bunch of Nothics with him. He's got Nothics and living demiplanes. Oh, that's cool. They put living. That's an interesting idea. I didn't think about that. The living demiplane, they've got a bunch of creatures in there they have to deal with. 3 Galvan Mages and 2 Flesh Golems. Holy shit. That would be a fun twist. I don't think I'm going to use the demiplane in this final boss fight, though. Instead, I will tease for the first time what I am going to be using as the final boss room. Although I guess I need to put a marker on where to deposit the players. To have maybe something that looks like a starry field or something. Okay, is this magic circle blue? Is this map from Seafoot Games? Which is called like Mind Flayer Layer or something. And it's got all this like brain shit everywhere. And literally like a giant pulsing brain in the middle of the map. Which I have lovingly put an Elder Brain token on top of and then embiggened it to hilarious portions. Where it is either gargantuan or possibly beyond gargantuan. And there's a whole bottom part to this map that's like a whole dungeon crawl. This is just like the final area. And initially, when I first saw this map, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to use the Elder Brain on here, and I'm going to have this whole little dungeon. But because of the pacing we're in right now and the long rest situation, the fact that I did end up using all of the Spire, basically, and I didn't know if I would use it, makes me think that I'm actually just going to fast forward the players into appearing right now in the boss room. And I think that's going to be work best for the pacing for sure. Let me go ahead and put them on this doorway though, so we can just put like the thing there, and then that's kind of where they appear. Now, what to stock this room with, I don't know. This is supposed to be a pretty challenging... Oh, I need to actually write that. I haven't done the dynamic lighting on this map at all. I remind myself to do that. What I'd like to do is get through that whole level 2 and then end this week's session at the beginning. You know, this is the good ending. When they're teleported here and I describe the room and then I end the session, and then the week after we would just do this one fight, because I think big marquee boss battles should take a full session. That's the perfect timing for me, so I really want to get all the way up until this point and then stop it would be the ideal situation. I have no idea if a normal Elder Brain is going to feel like enough of a boss fight. We talked about maybe encasing it in a glass case, or, you know, and force the players to hit that, at least if they wanted to attack it physically. It could maybe still take mental damage. Oddly, the Elder Brain has like no immunities or resistances. You think it would have some kind of psychic. I guess it just has plus 10 intelligence saves and magic resistance and legendary resistance. Of course, it has Mind Blast, but it's within 60 feet, which should cover... Yeah, basically covers the entire room. It's a cone, though, so players could try to split up to avoid it, though. Recharge 5 to 6, and that is the stun thing. I could see myself making a rule change here, in that the stunned only lasts one turn, and then afterwards you automatically essentially succeed on the save, just to help avoid some really unfortunate situations, like while Robin being stunned for multiple turns or something. Now, that's not to say that the Elder Brain might get its Mind Blast recharge back and keep Mind Blasting people, but at least then it would only last for a turn, and that still sucks for the player, but you're fighting a brain that's going to be doing psychic abilities. You have spells, spell casting. Cast the following spells. I don't think it mentions them. Spell save DC 18. Because they're just down here. Plane shift, detect thoughts, levitate, modify memory, and dominate monster. I can do one of those. Legendary actions, break concentration. Break the creature's concentration on a spell it has cast and takes damage. It has to have a psychic link as a bonus action. Just automatically does that. Or use an action to its turn to attempt to break the link. It takes damage. Okay. Psychic pulse, target. Okay, so interesting. All of its things have to be triggered off of the psychic link. That's actually an interesting boss fight mechanic. So every turn it uses... Oh no, it has to be incapacitated. The Elder Brain targets one incapacitated creature it senses with its creature sense. So it has to stun... Okay. So this gets even more complicated to run this creature. So the idea is... It has to stun a creature with its Mind Blast. Then, as a bonus action, thankfully it's a bonus action, it can use Psychic Link, because I think stun does incapacitate you, to establish a Psychic Link, which lasts until the target chooses to use an action to attempt to break it, which is a DC 18 Charisma save. So the idea is it can keep on making these psychic links as long as it only can do one a turn, only has one bonus action. And it can only do it on stunned target, so it needs to be able to get its stun on. And it can use that psychic link to break concentration as a legendary action, to deal damage. Alright, it's one creature 120 feet, which has like link target take the target and enemies of the Elder Brain within 30 feet of target. Okay, so it can do damage to that target and an AoE with 3d6 psychic damage, or it can sever the link which gives them disadvantage on all ability checks, attack rolls, and saving throws at the end of the creature's next turn, just as a massive debuff. That's a little complicated, but kind of interesting. That's interesting, Sylvan. Make the AoE 360, so instead of a cone, the 1 round duration on failed save. Yeah, so I'm liking the idea of the 1 round. It is limited that it can only do the Psychic Link once per turn. Or it can just do its tentacle attacks. Which does grapple them. I don't think grapple's as bad as restrain, though. Does say it takes psychic damage at the start of each of its turns until the grapple ends. Now, obviously, this thing is not going to be alone. That's the big trick. We need to have minions with it. And probably boost its stats quite a bit. Although we could keep the brain stats pretty close. I mean, obviously we'll give it some more hit points, but keep it at like AC 10. It's a big fucking brain. But maybe if we wanted to give it a big case, we could. And then the case it was in could have better AC and hit points. Or throw enough minions to the players. I still like the idea of doing the Helmed Horror brain combo, but I gotta be careful not to do too many of those. In fact, maybe even just one, because you don't want to be stunning too many players. And then it makes sense that there would be Nothics around as well, because that would be primarily the most. They'd be like the regular wizards who are just too far gone. On the helmed, is it called a helmed horror? Headless? What is it called? I thought it was helmed horror, but I don't see helmed horror in here. Maybe it's called something. I guess, is it just under Veneranda? The named NPC? Yeah, it is. Veneranda, helmed horror, Veneranda, brain in a jar. Which has the awesome token. I love it. I don't know, because you're supposed to use both creatures, though. Grapple is 30 feet, so realistically grapple and lift. 30 feet drop is fun. Well, that's interesting. Where do you see 30? Oh, reach 30 feet, I see. Also, notice how this room, there's like tentacles everywhere. So yeah, that's probably, and there you go, 30 feet gives me a pretty good distance. But I might even increase that amount and just have these tentacles coming out of everywhere. You could even give it like 50 feet or something. I've been watching them and knows their capabilities. That is true. Dominate monster on Frey. That would be the most fun thing for sure. He only gets one, and Frey has stubbornly made all the damn saves. Really have only those few little spells? And I feel like Mind Blast is still the best thing it can do. Oh shit. Oh shit, it's not even a cone, y'all. I misread this. It is an AoE. Holy crap. Mind Blast. Creatures of the Elder Brain's choice within 60 feet of it. Holy crap. So it is already an AoE, up to 60, just creatures of the Elder Brain's choice within 60 feet of it. Must succeed on a DC 18 intelligence save. Or take an average of 32 psychic damage and be stunned. Holy crap. Oh my goodness sakes. Oh my goodness. That's scary. That's pretty scary. Oh, I think I have to make that change the stun length on that, because that is crazy. Also, it recharges on 5 to 6. Boy, oh boy. And this thing does have legendary resistance and legendary actions. But if it doesn't have anybody in the Psychic Link, the only legendary action it can do, if I'm reading this correctly, is just a tentacle attack. And it can only do one. because it costs 2 actions. All the other 3 all require it to have a psychic link. Boy, that is fascinating. Okay, but we do know that I want to use one of these just because the token itself is so cool, but it may come down to literally just using one of them, because that's going to be a pretty, like, maybe as like a mini boss, like a general or something. And use the Helmed Horror Brain in the Jar combo, which I believe, go to that section. I believe they can actually they are effectively 2 units. Unfortunately, Roll20 doesn't have a good way of doing that. I guess you would leave them, well, maybe put one on the hidden layer. Do they roll initiative separately? This gets really tricky. But just having another creature that could possibly do that Mind Blast is going to be a pain in the ass for the players to deal with. Yeah, so these are a 60-foot cone. 100 crawling claws in here for fun. Although the players just fought, what, 4 brains in a jar and barely broke a sweat, I feel like. I got the one good stun off, but otherwise they were making those saves left and right. I feel like you should just show this, and only if the brain becomes detached do you then show this. But I think you do get to run both of them as separate creatures. It's not a good way of putting the tokens on there again. Yeah, I don't want to cover up the token. But if you hide it on the GM layer, it doesn't really go fair because the players aren't seeing it come up in the initiative order. I guess I could hide it like off screen, maybe. You know, put dynamic lighting around it might be the best tool. Yeah, I don't think so either, but I really, really, really want to use at least one of these Helmed Horror, Brain in the Jar combos. Just maybe I'll just have the one then. I'll just have, and I can literally make it Veneranda. Like, just this is the loyal subject that was the one who took over doing the brain transfer. Maybe the one who brain transferred Larthus, you know, and has just been a lieutenant basically. And Larthus has grown enlarged and insane because of his solo connection to the Mythalar. And then because we need some more dudes in here, I think we just throw some Nothics as former wizards that were twisted. And this is not the final boss fight of our campaign. It is going to be a big one. No, I'm not using one of those Wraith Mechs from Fire the Ghouls. Terrifying too. I do have different Nothic variants I could use if we really want it. We never got to use like the big bad Nothic, did we? Came in and did a little bit and then backed off. Nothic Preeminence. Why not? Yeah, we've got Nothic Stalker, which is the one that does the extra rogue damage, and then the Preeminent, which I think also has extra psychic stuff. Mind Flare. I gave them all Whispers of Paranoia, which is from the Aleph. They don't normally have that ability. The Nothic Preeminent does have Counterspell and Hypnotic Pattern, which is a fucking pain in the ass. And I don't think we need another Spellcaster here, given that the Brain in Jar and Veneranda will be doing spell type effects. So I think I'll just stick to maybe some Nothics and maybe a Nothic Stalker. And the number I use here, I don't know. We can talk about that's more. Like I said, I don't think we're going to get to this session until after this week. So we'll talk more about the balance of this crazy fight we have lined up. But hopefully we can get through the level 2 Spire in the meantime and get them set up for here. And then depending on how they made it through all those challenges, we'll be able to look at this fight and be like, okay, do we need to soften this fight a bit, or what do we need to do here to make it palpable so they can get through this fight on the skin of their teeth and then have to go into the Mythalar fight feeling like completely gassed at the edge, but there's not going to be a chance to probably even short rest between these fights. Honestly, it's going to be a real Dick DM thing to force them to it, but maybe by this going down, I can give them some kind of rejuvenation. We will see. For now, that is going to do it for this session of Crafting Icewind Dale. If you enjoy the content, please do check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. Shout out to Platinum patrons: Joe, Will, Thomas, Stan, Brandon, Genocider, David, Eclectic, Roleplay Roll, Christopher, Brian, William, David, Corey, Koa1337, Big Nut, John, Chris, Scott, Gene, Eric, Dan, Tyler, Nathan, Camp, Crystal Lake, Counselor, Big Shep, Andrew, and Daryl. And gold patrons: RPG, Papercrafts, Pretty Boy, Anna, Yuma, Marcus, Deathlizard, Lion, Sam, Lumpy Spuds, Jerome, Nathan, Fast Like a Tortoise, Scott, Refus, Carolyn, and William. Thank you all very much for your support. I will see you all for another Crafting Icewind Dale session on Thursday.